The nursing home bill was the last thing my father left me. It was for $90,000. My sister Clara got everything else. The house, the car, and his retirement money. All because she told him I stole from her on my wedding day. But she lied. And today I found the proof. My name is Juliana Phillips, and I'm 32 years old. 5 years ago my life was perfect. I was about to marry a wonderful man named Liam, and my family seemed to love me. I thought that day would be the happiest of my life. I had no idea it was the beginning of my end. The sun was shining. The little white church in our Ohio town was filled with flowers. My dress was beautiful, and Liam was waiting for me at the altar. My older sister, Clara, was my maid of honor. She smiled at me, but her eyes were cold. I didn't understand why. Just minutes before I walked down the aisle, she ran to me. Her face was white. "Juliana, I've lost the ring," she whispered, her voice full of fake panic. "Liam's ring. It was in my purse, and now it's gone." My heart stopped. How could this happen? My mother gasped. My father's face filled with disappointment. He looked at me, not her, as if it were my fault. Clara started to cry, and everyone rushed to comfort her. In that moment I was alone. The bride who had already ruined her own wedding. But then Liam's best man, David, stepped forward. He pulled a small old wooden box from his pocket. "It's okay," he said quietly, opening it. Inside was a simple gold ring worn with age. "Your grandpa gave this to me. He wanted you to have it just in case." It was our grandfather's wedding band. A wave of relief washed over me. The wedding was saved. But as I looked at my sister, I saw something ugly flicker in her eyes. For just a second, I didn't see a sad sister. I saw pure, raw anger. Why was she angry that my wedding was saved? That question burned in my mind for 5 long years. That single look was the key to everything. The lie about the ring wasn't an accident. It was an attack. It was the first shot in a war I didn't even know she was fighting. What you are about to hear is how a small lie can tear a family apart. It's a story of jealousy so deep it will make you sick. But I promise you, if you stay with me, the ending will give you hope. Please, from the bottom of my heart, subscribe so you don't miss how this story ends. Please comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I believe that when good people come together, even online, we can send waves of love across the world. May peace find your home and your family for supporting this story. Because that lie about the lost ring was just a test. After she ruined my wedding, she set her sights on my inheritance, my house, and my father's mind. But what she didn't know was that our grandfather's ring had a secret. A tiny secret that would one day destroy her world, just like she destroyed mine. The rest of my wedding day felt like a dream. Not a good dream, but a blurry, confusing one. We said, "I do," and people clapped. We kissed and people smiled. But all I could see was the flash of anger I saw in my sister's eyes. It was a shadow that covered the whole happy day. At the party after the wedding, I watched Clara with our father. She was always his favorite. She leaned in and whispered something in his ear. He looked over at me, and his happy face turned sad. What did she tell him? What lie was she planting in his heart now? Later I found Clara alone by the wedding cake. "Why did you do that, Clara?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why did you lie about the ring?" She just smiled, a small cold smile. "You always get everything, Juliana," she said. "I just wanted everyone to see that you aren't perfect." Her words cut me deeper than a knife. What did she mean, I get everything? We grew up in the same house, with the same parents. Her jealousy was a monster I never knew existed. How could I have been so blind? What would you do if your own sister said that to you? A little while later, my father pulled me away from the dance floor. His voice was not warm and loving like it used to be. It was cold and serious. "Clara told me about your money problems," he said. "Don't worry. I will make sure the family is protected." I was so confused. What money problems? Had a good job. Had savings. I never asked my parents for money. It was another lie. A lie designed to make me look bad, to make me look like a child who couldn't take care of herself. Clara wasn't just trying to ruin my wedding. She was trying to ruin my life. That night, after the party was over, my new husband Liam was fast asleep. But I couldn't sleep. I thought about my grandfather. He was a smart man. Why did he give his ring to David as a backup? Did he know Clara was like this? Did he know she would try to hurt me? My hands trembled as I gently slipped the ring off Liam's finger. I had to see the secret message I talked about. The one I hoped would prove everything. I turned on a small lamp and held the old gold ring close to my eyes, looking on the inside. I thought I would find a date or a name or a message of love, something I could use to expose her. But what I saw made my blood run cold. It wasn't a message at all. It was just 2 tiny letters, carved into the gold a long, long time ago. The letters were C.P. My heart sank into my stomach. C for Clara, P for Phillips. Last name. Why was my sister's initial inside the ring that saved my wedding? The ring that was supposed to be my secret weapon. What did it mean? My heart pounded in my chest. P. Clara Phillips. The ring that saved my wedding had my sister's name inside it. All my hope turned to dust. Did this mean our grandfather loved her more? Was this ring another thing that was supposed to be hers, that I had somehow taken? The next morning, the sun streamed into our hotel room. My new husband, Liam, woke up with a huge smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Davis," he said, kissing me. He wanted to talk about our honeymoon, about the tickets to Hawaii. But my mind was a million miles away, stuck on those 2 little letters. I couldn't tell him. How could I explain the sick feeling in my stomach? How could I tell him my own family was my enemy? He would think I was crazy. So I kept the secret. I smiled and said I was just tired, but a wall was already building between us. I had to know the truth, so I called my mom. I hoped she would make it all make sense. But her voice was cold. "Your father is very upset, Juliana," she said. "Clara is worried about you. She said you have been spending too much money. You need to be more careful." Tears filled my eyes. "That's not true, Mom. But that's not why I called. It's about Grandpa's ring. Why does it have CP carved inside?" The phone went completely silent. I could hear my mom breathing, a quick, nervous sound. I had hit a nerve. What was she hiding? "You shouldn't have that ring, Juliana," she finally whispered, her voice full of fear. "It was never meant for you." And then she hung up. Just like that. She left me with more questions and a heart broken into a million pieces. The ring wasn't meant for me. Then why did I have it? My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone. Liam saw my face and knew something was terribly wrong. I told him what my mother said, and we had our first fight as a married couple. The joy of our wedding was gone, replaced by suspicion and fear. We cancelled our honeymoon. Felt so alone. My sister hated me. My parents believed her lies. My husband was confused and hurt. There was only one person left who might have an answer. The person my grandfather trusted. David, the best man. He was my last hope. With trembling fingers, I found his number and called. "David." "It's Juliana," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I need to ask you about the ring. My grandfather. When he gave it to you, what did he say? What were his exact words?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I thought maybe he had hung up too. But then he spoke and his words changed everything. "Juliana," he said slowly. He told me to give you the ring only if Clara was the one who lost the groom's ring." The phone felt heavy in my hand. My grandfather knew. He knew Clara was capable of hurting me. He saw the darkness in her long before I did. This ring wasn't just a backup. It was a message. A warning from the grave. For the first time since my wedding, I didn't feel completely alone. I had to see David right away. I needed to look him in the eyes and hear the whole story. I told Liam I was meeting an old friend. I felt bad for lying, but how could I tell him this crazy story? He would never believe that my family's problems were this deep. We met at a small, quiet coffee shop. David looked at me with kind, sad eyes. Your grandfather came to me about 6 months before he passed, he began. He was so worried about you. He gave me the ring and said, Clara's love is like a shadow. Where there is light, there is also darkness. Protect Juliana. My whole body went cold. He saw it all. But David, I whispered, holding back tears. The initials inside. Hey, it has to be for Clara Phillips. Why would he give me a ring meant for her? What would you do if you found out a family secret this big? David shook his head slowly. No, Juliana. You're wrong. Those are not your sister's initials. He leaned forward and lowered his voice. The ring didn't belong to your grandfather. It belonged to his older brother, Charles Phillips. He died a long time ago. My mind was spinning. A great uncle I never even knew existed. What happened to him? Yes. David took a deep breath. Your grandfather never told me everything. But he said there was a terrible fight over the family business. He believed the same jealousy that destroyed his brother was living inside Clara. It all started to make sense. This wasn't just about me and my sister. This was a pattern, a sickness passed down through my family. My grandfather saw my father favoring Clara, just like his father had favored one son over the other. He saw that it would end in pain. He wasn't just trying to save my wedding day. He was trying to save me. He was giving me a weapon to fight a war that started before I was even born. Finally understood. But what was I supposed to do now? How do you fight a shadow? As we got up to leave, David reached into his wallet and pulled out a small yellowed piece of paper, folded into a tiny square. He gave me this too, he said, placing it in my hand. He told me you'd know what it was for when the time was right. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. It wasn't a note. It wasn't a letter. It was a key. A small, old-fashioned brass key. On the paper, my grandfather had written just 3 words. For Juliana's justice. It was a key to a safe deposit box. A box I had no idea even existed. I stared at the small brass key in my palm. It felt heavier than it looked. Heavy with the weight of secrets. For Juliana's justice. My grandfather's words echoed in my head. He had left me a map, a path to the truth. I wasn't just a sad bride anymore. I was a warrior on a mission he had given me. But there was a problem. The key had a number on it, but no name of a bank. No address. Nothing. How could I find one single box in a whole state full of banks? For a moment my hope faded. Was this a puzzle I was meant to solve, or a dead end? That night I couldn't sleep. I went through old photo albums, searching for a clue, anything. And then I saw it. A picture of my grandfather, young and proud, standing in front of a big stone building. It was the old First National Bank downtown. Had been closed for years. Could it be that simple? I knew I couldn't do this alone anymore. I sat Liam down and told him everything. The whole story, from the moment Clara lost the ring to David's warning to the key. I watched his face, my heart pounding, scared he would tell me I was crazy. What would you do if your partner told you a story like this? Liam was quiet for a long time. I thought he was going to leave. But then he reached out and took my hand. His grip was firm. Okay, he said, his eyes serious. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to that bank tomorrow morning and we're going to open that box. Finally, I wasn't alone in this fight. The old bank was now a museum. A kind old woman at the desk told us that the bank's old safe deposit boxes had been moved to the main branch of Ohio Trust Bank decades ago. She gave us the address. My heart started to beat faster. We were getting closer. At the new bank, we waited for what felt like forever. A manager had to search through dusty old records in the basement. I kept thinking, what if it's empty? What if this is all just a wild goose chase? But I had to see it through. For my grandfather. Finally, they led us into the cold, quiet vault. A man in a suit placed a dusty metal box on a table in a small, private room. With Liam standing right beside me, I put the key in the lock. Click. I took a deep breath and slowly lifted the lid. My breath caught in my throat. I expected money or jewelry or old bonds. But it wasn't anything like that. Inside, there was only a thick leather diary and a single, sealed envelope. On the front of the envelope, in my grandfather's shaky handwriting, was my name. Juliana. With trembling fingers, I tore open the envelope. Inside was one piece of paper. It wasn't a letter from him. It was a legal document, a copy of a will. My eyes scanned to the top of the page, and the name I read made all the air leave my lungs. It was the last will of Charles Phillips, and it said he left everything he owned to my grandmother. The air in the small bank room grew cold and thin. I read the will again and again. Charles Phillips left everything to my grandmother, Eleanor. To his brother's wife. Liam looked at me, his eyes wide with shock. Juliana, he whispered. Was your grandmother having an affair with her husband's brother? My heart wanted to scream no, but my mind was spinning. What other reason could there be? My eyes fell to the other object from the box. The thick leather diary. The will told me what happened, but this diary. This would tell me why. This was Charles's story, in his own words. I opened it to the first page. The handwriting was neat and sad. He wrote of a woman named Eleanor, my grandmother. He had loved her first from afar, but he was too quiet, too shy. His brother, my grandfather, was loud and confident. He swept her off her feet, and Charles was left with a broken heart. We kept reading, turning the old, fragile pages. Charles wrote about starting a business with his brother. It grew and made them rich. But slowly, my grandfather started taking over, pushing Charles out. My great-grandfather always liked him better. It was the same story. The same pattern of jealousy repeating again. Then we found the entry that changed everything. Charles wrote that he discovered my grandfather had been stealing from their company. He had been taking money for years. He wrote, "He has my love, he has my father's praise, and now he has stolen my money. I have made a new will. Eleanor will get what is rightfully mine. She is the only good person I know." My hands started to shake. This was our family's great secret. Our grandfather, the man we all loved and looked up to, was a thief. He had built his entire fortune, the money my father and Clara were now enjoying, on a foundation of lies. This was the injustice my grandfather wanted me to find. We turned to the last pages of the diary. The writing was messy, scared. "He knows I changed the will," Charles wrote. "He is coming to the workshop tonight to talk. I am afraid. If something happens to me, tell Eleanor it was not an accident." That was the last thing he ever wrote. The story we were always told was that Charles died in a terrible accident at the workshop. It was a lie that had been kept for 60 years. My grandfather didn't just steal from his brother. He may have killed him. How can you carry a secret this dark? What would you do? Suddenly my phone buzzed, the sound echoing in the silent room. It was my mother. Her voice was a terrified whisper. "Juliana, what have you done? Your father knows you're digging into the past. He is on his way to find you. He is furious." Before I could even answer her, Liam, who was staring at the glass door of the room, said, "Juliana, it's too late." I turned my head. Standing there, his face twisted with rage, was my father. And clutched in his hand, shining under the bank's bright lights, was the original groom's ring. The one Clara supposedly lost. My father stood in the doorway, a ghost from my past holding the proof of his lies. The small gold ring in his hand seemed to burn with the heat of his anger. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes were glued to the old leather diary on the table. He was cornered, and he knew it. "What have you done?" he hissed, his voice like a snake. He took a step into the room, his hand reaching for the diary. "You have no idea what you're messing with. Give that to me." But Liam stepped between us, a solid wall protecting me. "You need to back off," Liam said calmly. I couldn't take my eyes off the ring. "You knew," I whispered, the pain making it hard to breathe. "You and Clara lied to me on my wedding day. You planned it all. He didn't even try to deny it. We did what we had to do, he spat. We had to protect this family from you. From me. What had I ever done but love them? Your grandfather was a hero, he shouted, his voice cracking. He saved this family. Charles was a weak, sad man who would have given everything away. My father did what was necessary to give us a good life. My voice grew strong. He was a thief. He stole from his own brother and let him die. My father's face turned red. It was an accident, he yelled. The fire was an accident. But when he found that will on Charles's body, what was he supposed to do? Let his family starve. So that was the truth. It wasn't murder. It was a cover-up. A secret kept for 60 years. And Grandma? I asked, my voice barely audible. Did she know? My father's silence was louder than any answer. She knew. They all knew. They all chose the money over the truth. His eyes turned cold as ice. You will give me that diary and you will forget this ever happened, he threatened. If you don't, I will ruin you. I will make sure everyone knows about your little problem. You and your husband will be left with nothing. That old threat again. The secret lie Clara had told him. But hearing it now, I felt no fear. I looked at the diary, at the words written by a man who had his voice stolen from him. My grandfather didn't want me to be afraid. He wanted me to be brave. I calmly picked up my phone. What are you doing? My father demanded, a hint of panic in his voice. I looked him straight in the eye. You think you're so powerful, I said. But you've spent your whole life hiding. You're just afraid of the truth. Grandpa didn't just leave me clues, I continued, dialing a number from a small piece of paper that was tucked inside the diary. He left me people who could help. I put the phone to my ear. The lawyer who wrote Charles's will 60 years ago. I wonder if he remembers you. My father's face went completely white. My father's face was a crumbling wall. The name, Mr. Abernathy, was a ghost from a past he thought was buried forever. An old, clear voice came through the phone. Abernathy here. I put the phone on speaker, and the sound filled the small room. My father shrank back. Mr. Abernathy, my name is Juliana Phillips, I began. My grandfather was Henry Phillips. The old lawyer cut me off. I know who you are, child, he said kindly. Henry told me this day might come. He said you would have a key, a will, and a diary. He made me promise I would help you. My grandfather's plan was bigger than I ever imagined. He didn't just leave me clues. He left me an army. My father stumbled backward, shaking his head. No. No, he can't be. He lunged for my phone, a desperate, wild look in his eyes, but Liam blocked him. You don't understand, my father cried, his voice breaking. Clara lied to me too. She told me you had a gambling problem. She said you were thousands of dollars in debt and were going to lose your house. She said you couldn't be trusted with the family money. The air was punched out of my lungs. It wasn't a small lie. It was a monster. Clara had painted me as a desperate addict, a lost cause. She had built a cage of lies around me so perfectly that my own father thought locking me out was the right thing to do. On the phone, Mr. Abernathy spoke again, his voice cutting through the chaos. Juliana, Henry set up a trust in Charles's name 60 years ago. With interest, it is now worth millions. But it can only be unlocked with proof of the original injustice. The diary is that proof. He continued. Henry wanted to give them a choice. If your father and sister confess and give you your rightful share, they can keep the house and their pensions. If they refuse, the diary will be used as evidence, and they will lose everything. The choice is theirs. The power is yours. Justice or mercy. The fate of my family was in my hands. What would you do? I looked at my father, a weak man who had spent his life protecting a thief's legacy. He wasn't a monster. He was just a coward. The real monster was my sister. I ended the call with the lawyer. My hand was steady, my heart was clear. I looked at the broken man in front of me. Call her, I said, my voice as cold and hard as the vault door. Call Clara. It's time she and I had a talk. As my father fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking, Liam picked up the original groom's ring from the table. He looked inside it and his face changed. "Jules," he whispered in shock. "Look." He handed me the ring. I looked inside the little gold band and saw 3 tiny words. "I am sorry." I held the small gold ring in my hand. "I am sorry." 3 words that changed everything. Was this my father's quiet apology? A secret message of regret for the part he played in the lie? Before I could think, the phone in my father's hand connected. He passed it to me. It was on speaker. "Juliana. Oh, thank goodness. Are you okay?" Clara's voice was dripping with fake sweetness. "Dad was so angry. I was worried about you." The lie was so natural for her, as easy as breathing. I felt sick to my stomach, but my voice was steady. "I'm at the bank, Clara," I said, my words like ice. "With Dad. We've been looking through Grandpa's safe deposit box." The line went completely silent. I could feel her panic through the phone. The game was over. "I know everything," I said. "I have Charles's diary." I expected her to cry or deny it. Instead, she laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. "So what?" she spat, the fake sweetness gone, replaced by pure venom. "You were always the perfect one. The pretty one. Everyone loved you more. I was the one who stayed home. I was the one who took care of Dad. I earned that money." There was no sadness, no regret. Just a deep, dark jealousy that had poisoned her entire life. I told her about the lawyer and the choice our grandfather had left for them. "Confess and you keep the house," I said. "Fight and you lose everything. It's your only chance, Clara." Again she laughed. "You think you're so smart with your dead man's diary. But you don't know the whole story, do you, little sister?" My blood ran cold. What else could there be? What had she done? How deep did her lies go? "Remember that $90,000 nursing home bill?" Clara's voice was smug. "I paid it off 6 months ago. But I told Dad you refused. I told him you said he should just rot in there. I showed him fake emails from you. That's why he cut you off, Juliana. He thought you were a monster." My world stopped. It was a lie so evil, so twisted. It took my breath away. She hadn't just made me look irresponsible. She had made me look cruel. She had poisoned my father's love for me in his final days. How do you fight a lie like that? "You have your story, Juliana," she sneered. "But I have bank records. Have receipts. Have emails. I look like the perfect daughter. You look like a greedy liar who showed up after he died to steal his money. Who do you think anyone is going to believe?" I stood there, speechless, the diary feeling worthless in my hands. My perfect plan was in ashes. But then my father, who had been silent this whole time, spoke. His voice was a broken whisper. "Clara," he choked out. "The ring. The one that says, 'I am sorry.' Tell her. Tell her who it's from." A thick, heavy silence hung on the phone line. Clara was trapped. Her own father had cornered her. "Tell her the truth, Clara," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Tell her the last secret." For the first time, Clara's voice was not filled with poison or lies. It was small like a child's. "It was Mom," she whispered. "The ring was from Mom." The words didn't make sense. My mother died 2 years before my wedding. Before she passed, Clara explained, her voice trembling, she knew. She knew how much I disliked you. She saw the jealousy in me. She made me promise to give you that ring. As an apology, from her. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place, and it shattered my heart. My own mother knew. She saw the monster growing in her daughter, but she didn't stop it. She didn't protect me. She just planned an apology. The ring wasn't for Clara's lie. It was for our mother's weakness. Finally understood. My family was a house built on sand. My grandfather stole from his brother. My father protected the lie. My mother saw the hate in one child and did nothing to save the other. And Clara. Clara was just the final, ugliest brick in a falling wall. I looked at my father's tear-streaked face. I thought of the diary in my hand. I could destroy them. I could take everything. But my grandfather didn't want revenge. He wanted justice. And my great-uncle Charles just wanted what was right. I knew what I had to do. "This is what's going to happen," I said, my voice strong and clear. Clara and my father listened in silence. "Clara, you will get nothing. All your lies have left you with an empty life. That is your inheritance. Dad, you can live in the house for the rest of your days. When he is gone," I continued, "the house will be sold, and the money will be donated to a home for the elderly, in our grandmother Eleanor's name. The trust, all the millions from Charles, will start a foundation to help people who have been cheated in business. His story will help others." Hung up the phone. I didn't need to hear another word. My father slid the "I am sorry" ring across the table. I picked it up, walked to the trash can, and let it fall inside. I was done with their weak apologies. I was done with their lies. Liam took my hand, and we walked out of that cold, dark bank and into the bright sunshine. We built a new family, one based on truth and trust. We honored the good men, Charles and my grandfather, by turning their pain into purpose. We turned their secrets into a legacy of hope. My name is Juliana, and I took my family's greatest secret and turned it into my greatest strength. I broke the cycle. If this story gave you strength, please like and share it with someone who needs to see that the truth will always win. Subscribe for more stories that matter. Thank you for being a part of my journey.